Hello and welcome back to the Thriving Metabolism. Today's episode is inspired by something that I see all the time in my clinic. Women who, before they come to me, are taking a ton of supplements, spending a fortune on them, trying to support their hormones, trying to be proactive with their health, and yet instead of feeling better, they feel worse. They're bloated, jittery, more tired, more anxious, and sometimes gaining weight instead of losing it. And what can be really confusing is that on paper, the supplements make sense. They may have had tests that showed a need, or they may have symptoms that the products claim to fix. So today I want to talk about supplements, why they absolutely do have a place, especially for women over 40 with stubborn weight, but also why they're often misused, underestimated, or doing far more in the body than people realise. And how, in some cases, supplements are actually the thing keeping you stuck. In case you're new here, I'm Louise Digby, metabolism nutritionist and founder of the Nourish Method to Lasting Fat Loss, where my team and I help women over 40 to identify what's blocking their fat loss and causing their symptoms so that they can release stubborn weight by addressing the root causes without dieting or superhuman willpower. Now, one of the biggest myths in the wellness space is that supplements are gentle. They're often spoken about as if they're just concentrated food, harmless, supportive, something that you can just add in willy-nilly with no consequences. But supplements are biologically active compounds. They influence enzymes, neurotransmitters, hormones, gut bacteria, detox pathways, and that means that they can be incredibly powerful. And just because something is natural does not mean it's weak. And this becomes especially relevant after 40, when the nervous system is often already overstimulated and gut resilience is lower and detox capacity is slower. Blood sugar is easily destabilized and thyroid function is more sensitive. So what might feel like support can very quickly become overstimulation, pushing these systems out of alignment. So we have to be very cautious and strategic with how we use supplements. Now, you might think that a safe place to start with supplementation is with what you know you need. Like if you've been to the doctors and you've been told that you're deficient in iron, for example, or if you've been told that you're at risk of bone loss and you think, okay, I need to supplement calcium. And, this is the part that really trips people up because, yes, I absolutely use testing, and yes, we often do see nutrient needs, and that is super helpful information to have. But we have to put on our detective hat and ask what's going on here. Why am I lacking in this nutrient? Is it because I'm not getting enough in the diet? Is it because I'm not absorbing it from my food? Is it because my body actually has a really high demand for that nutrient? And what can I do to reduce my body's demand for that nutrient? Is it because my body is losing too much of that nutrient? If you just add in more of the nutrient with a supplement and hope that it will fix the problem, you're ignoring the deeper imbalance and maybe even driving further issues. So a good example of this is iron. It's a pretty common one too. A woman is told that she's anemic, she does the sensible thing, and she starts taking iron. But she already has bloating, constipation, a sluggish gut, or an imbalance in her gut microbiome. And iron is a growth nutrient, not just for you, but for bacteria. So what happens is that iron feeds the very microbes that are causing those gut issues, and inflammation increases, absorption actually gets worse, and the root cause of iron deficiency, which could be poor absorption, low stomach acid, inflammation, or excess blood loss from menstruation, it's never addressed. So she's taking iron and she's still iron deficient, and also now experiencing worsened digestive issues. Again, it's not because iron is bad, but because timing, context, and capacity matter. Another example that I mentioned earlier is calcium. And this one honestly makes me wince a little bit every time I see it. So, calcium for bones. It sounds logical, right? We need calcium to build strong bones. But taking calcium on its own is a terrible idea, and it can be harmful to health, because for calcium to strengthen bone, it actually needs magnesium to balance it, vitamin K to direct it to the bone, and adequate vitamin D so that you can absorb it. Without those, calcium doesn't go into the bones. It can actually end up in soft tissue, in blood vessels and joints. So we end up with women who are trying to support bone health, but actually just increasing stiffness, inflammation, and cardiovascular risk. And the thing is, most people aren't actually lacking in calcium. They're lacking in cofactors, the magnesium, the K2, and the vitamin D that I mentioned. Again, the issue isn't the nutrient as such, it's the lack of strategy. So as a nutritionist, when we're considering supplements for our clients, we're asking these questions about essentially what will happen when this nutrient enters the body. Will it be absorbed? Is the gut resilient enough to cope with it and process it? What form of the nutrient is going to be best suited to this individual? As in, do we want magnesium citrate, magnesium oxide, magnesium taurate, magnesium glycinate, etc.? Is this supplement stimulating? As in, does it force the body to do certain processes? Does it speed things up? And is this person's nervous system ready for that? A good example is B vitamins. They're very stimulating, but they can throw off balance completely if misused. What is causing this demand for the nutrient in the first place? What nutrients are needed alongside this core nutrient? And what else can be done to ensure that this supplement isn't going to be needed forever? How will this supplement impact medications? Is it safe? And so much more. And, most women who come into my world are already on a long list of supplements. And I sometimes joke that I should really get commission for the amount that we take people off. We'll open up their list and see multiple products doing the same thing. Poor quality forms that just aren't absorbed well, and supplements that have been chosen for a symptom, not a root cause, or trendy products that sounded great on Instagram but aren't appropriate for their physiology. And there's no judgment here. It's not your fault that you end up taking supplements that aren't right for you. The problem is all of the misinformation out there. And I completely empathize with these women who are just trying to do as much as they can possibly do to support their health. So very often, the first phase of work is actually subtraction, not addition. Not because supplements are bad, but because they are powerful. And also because the body needs space to breathe before it can heal. Now, another common example of mismatched supplements that I see is this. A client comes in stressed, wired but tired, and not sleeping well. She's been told she has high cortisol, or maybe she's just assumed that that's what she has. So she puts herself on adaptogens, things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, maybe a blend that has ginseng in it. And that sounds reasonable, right? We hear great things about these herbs for cortisol and energy. Except she also has a sensitive thyroid. And oftentimes she might not have known this. It's the sort of thing that we uncover with our advanced testing all the time. And that means that rather than getting the calming, focusing benefits of these herbs, she's actually more anxious, her sleep is worse, and her weight loss has completely stalled. Because while adaptogens are marketed as balancing, many of them are stimulating. And in a system where the thyroid is already under strain, that stimulation pushes things in the wrong direction. And this isn't particularly easy to notice for yourself because adaptogens take a little bit of time to work, and it's easy to blame these changes in sleep or anxiety on something like perimenopause. So again, the supplement wasn't bad, but it was wrong for her at that moment, at that stage of her journey. And I'll go into this more in a future episode, but I'll mention here briefly because it does tie in with what we've been talking about. There is a certain order that healing occurs, And many of the trendy or well-known solutions for weight loss really skip over these key stages. Things like fasting, stimulating supplements, HIIT training, cold plunges. These are things that should come much, much later in the healing journey, if at all. They are things that make everything worse if you don't have the foundations in place. And that's why it feels like nothing works. In the early stages, we need to focus on what your body needs, nourishing it and helping it to feel safe enough to let go of stubborn weight. Now, I do want to be balanced here, and I have to address the valid question of, can't you just get enough of what you need from food alone? And you'll hear quote unquote experts argue that supplements are a con and you can get everything that you need from food alone. But the reality is that it's harder than ever to get all our nutrients from food alone. Soil is depleted of nutrients due to over-farming and artificial fertilizers. Food is transported long distances, and so it's picked before it's ripe and then it's artificially ripened. Food processing further strips food of nutrients. Plus, our modern lives seriously increases our demand for certain nutrients. Chronic stress burns through nutrients faster than nature ever intended. Things like coffee and alcohol increase the rate at which we excrete certain nutrients. Exposure to toxins like pollution, pesticides, cleaning products, etc., they increase our demand for certain nutrients involved in detoxification. And I could go on. So yes, supplements are often needed, but they work best when they're not the main character, but when they're playing a supporting role alongside adequate food, stable blood sugar, nervous system safety, gut capacity, lifestyle changes that reduce stress load. Supplements should support healing, not prop the body up while nothing else changes. And I've seen this to be true in real life. I've had quite a few clients who have been to see a functional medicine doctor before coming to me. And that is essentially a conventional doctor who has done extra training in holistic and natural approaches. And I'm not saying that this is what every functional medicine doctor does. They do great work and are so needed. But these particular clients had been put on these long, expensive supplement protocols, but with no dietary or lifestyle guidance alongside it. And the client just felt worse for it. And the supplements recommended were mostly great in theory, but they just don't work in the way that we want without the actual legwork of changing the lifestyle factors and habits that drove the imbalances in the first place. And that really provides us with a good rule of thumb. If you're adding in a supplement, ask yourself or a practitioner, what else do you need to be changing to support your body's need for that nutrient? So this is where it all ties back to weight loss after 40. If you're eating well, taking supplements, exercising, trying to manage stress, but your system is overstimulated rather than supported, your body will not let go of weight because weight loss requires safety, not force, not starvation, not stimulation. And often the breakthrough comes when we simplify, stabilize, and create capacity, and then add in targeted support. And that's when supplements shine. So if you take one thing from today's episode, let it be that supplements are powerful tools, they're not benign, and they are definitely not one size fits all. And when used strategically in the right order for the right person at the right time, they can be transformative. But more is not better, and helpful in theory is not the same as helpful in your body. If this episode has made you think, if I'm honest, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but something is still missing, then I would love to invite you to join me for my upcoming Masterclass, How Doing Everything Right Keeps Women Stuck After 40. This is where we'll go deeper into why effort isn't the issue, what actually creates metabolic safety, and how to work with your body rather than just pushing harder against it. If you loved this episode, then I know that you'll love this masterclass too. So please do join me. You'll find the details in the show notes or visit louisedigbynutrition.com and you'll see a button at the bottom of the page where you can save your space for free. Even if you're listening to this in the distant future, I run the session regularly, so check out the link in the show notes and you'll see when the next session is. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Thriving Metabolism.